Hi everyone, my name is Helen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing the Eurovisionathon 2024 announcement. This is our 5th year of the readathon and I absolutely love it. It's the best thing that I've ever created on YouTube. The community around it is amazing, and that community goes across all platforms. There are people who solely take part on Instagram, there are people who are just in the Discord, there are people who are just on Twitter, there are people who just find me through my videos on here, and then I've got friends who take part as well from in real life. So yeah, I love it every year. The beauty of the countdown for the readathon now is that I can, each time I put up a country, I can talk about the books that I've read in the past. I'm getting quite a catalogue of books together now. I am thinking that in the next couple of years, the rounds that I do and the books I pick will be my favourite books from past readathons, past versions of the readathon. I just think that would be quite nice because I have found some real treasures within the books that I've read each year. And so yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to have a year where I just reread and I read ones that I found and I really loved. So yeah, just getting into what the readathon is if you've never done it before. It's all based around the Eurovision Song Contest. So there are 36, 37 countries in the Eurovision Song Contest this year, and the aim is to read a book for each country within the month between, let me get the dates right, the 13th of April till the 11th of May. And that is the day that Eurovision Song Contest is actually happening. Bear with me, my cat is playing with paper. I'm back. She was playing with a paper bag. So the aim is to read a book per country, just one book, in that month period, and then on the night of the Eurovision Song Contest, or the next day once the results have come out and I've calculated it all, you will win the points that that country gets, and yeah, we'll just have a fun time while we're doing it. The beauty of the readathon is once you get towards the final week of the readathon, that is when the semi-finals of the Eurovision Song Contest happen, so you can find out who's actually going to be in the contest on the last night, and then you can speed read a few last minute books to know that you will probably get at least some points. Unfortunately, if your country is knocked out in the semi-finals and you have read for that country, then you will get 0 points. But that's all the fun of it. We have had people each year who've read all of the books, so obviously that is a huge achievement. It's not something that I've ever managed. I think the most I've managed is 24 books. What's going on with my hair? I apologise if my voice keeps going in and out and sounds a bit croaky. I have the lurgy. It's just a really bad cold. It's been coming on for ages. I have no other opportunity really to film this video, so here I am. So what I thought I'd do is go through each country and say which books I am hoping to read for them. I haven't got a book for every country, I don't think yet, but I have got some books that cover multiple countries that I need to delve further into and see if there's different countries mentioned. Some of them are where people travel around Europe, and so there might be a small mention of certain countries, but there is a Discord, so if you want to be part of the Discord, message me and I'll give you the link to it, because I've left all the channels open from past years, so you can go back and see what people read for each country. People are now discussing the suggestions that they're thinking of for this year, and it's just a good old time and it gives you lots of ideas. So without further ado, excuse me if I look down, I have got my notes in my little notebook. So we've got Albania, and I am thinking of reading one called The Unexpected Mrs. Polyfax. It's one that I hadn't heard of before. I saw somebody mention it on the Discord channel and they were going to read it for Albania, and I thought, yeah, I might not have the authors written here, but you can easily go and explore them on Goodreads or Amazon. I tend to go on Everand and type in countries and find obscure books that way. I go on eBay. This year I have treated myself to some books, and they should be coming in the next few days, of books that I'd put aside for the last year's Eurovisionathon that I fancied purchasing and never got round to it, so I just went on the other day and bought 6 for different countries that I didn't have books for. So they should arrive in the next few days. But yeah, just you can find a lot if you type countries and books into Google. Some of the countries are more obscure, but like I say, if you're struggling for a country, for every country, I will be able to tell you at least one book based on the spreadsheets that I've got from past Eurovisionathons for what people have read. So please do reach out and I will be able to give you some suggestions. Andy is working on the sign up form at the moment, and there will also be a form for you to log the books you read as well. But that's a quick aside. So for Armenia, I've got a book called Travels in My 80s, and it is basically an 80-year-old who logs the travels that they've done in that age range. So I'm looking forward to that one. For Australia, let me find it. It is in the pile here somewhere, she says. Bear with me. I've literally got all my books on the floor in front of me. You will have seen this one in past Eurovisionathons. Sari by Sue Dhamapala. I think later on last year I started to read this. I was reading it for the Australia Readathon that Mel runs. And I read one chapter. No, not one chapter, one story within it. It's got different stories within it. And the first story... Oh, I got up to page 154, so I actually got into the second story of the book. But that first story was quite harrowing at the end. I really wasn't expecting it. It disturbed me a great deal. And so I stopped not long after because I couldn't get that story out of my head. It still affects me now. I'm glad I've read it because it was so powerful and it made me feel things. But it stopped me. So my plan is I will not be reading that first story again. I can't do it to myself. But what I will do is start from the second story and start again with the second story, even though I've read a bit of it, and make my way through. I mean, this book is 580 pages. So, you know, I'm reading a fair chunk of it. I'm not cheating myself, and I'll just in the readathon count the amount of pages that I've actually done. I don't tend to do that. I do start again. There is a book that I read for Sweden one year, started it and got quite a way through and didn't continue. That one I would start again, but with this one I cannot reread that story again. So yeah, you'll have seen this before. Last year I made a promise that if there was set books that I'd had on my pile for quite a few Eurovisionathons, that if I didn't read them last year they would be gone. And I read quite a few for the last Eurovisionathon or junior Eurovisionathon that I did in November. So I'm really proud of that. So there will only be a couple here that you've seen before because I've done really well at not wanting to get rid of them instead of reading them. So I did read them. So yeah, that's for Australia. Oh, feeling rough. The next one, Austria, there's one called European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewomen. That is a book that I went back on the Discord and looked at, and somebody had mentioned this one, and I think it's like the sisters or the female relatives of monsters in literature. So I think Dr. Jekyll's sister or Frankenstein's relative, or there's a group of women together and they travel across Europe, which sounded quite interesting. I believe that one might be the second in the series, so I'm going to have to find what the title of the first one is and hope that there's some European travel in that one. If not, whether this will get read for Austria, I'm not sure, but I've just found a book that might have Austria in it, so I'll mention that one later. But yeah, that's the one I've got pinned at the minute. Azerbaijan, I have got one called I Sat Alone by the Gate. I think that's one that I found through Everand, so if you fancy that one, go and have a look and see what it's about. Next is one that I did order off eBay, and that will be coming soon. Asterix in Belgium. It's the famous cartoon Asterix and Obelix, and I'm assuming they go to Belgium in that one. So I thought that's a bit of a light one. I think it's going to be like a graphic novel / comic one. So I've never really got into graphic novels and I'm not really big into comics, but it'll provide some light relief, and I always like to try different forms of writing, so we'll see. Croatia, I've found one called Here Come the Boys by Millie Johnson. Millie Johnson is a UK writer, but I'm assuming that goes to Croatia or something like that. So I will try and find that one in time. Cyprus is another one that I've ordered off eBay, called Death in Cyprus. I think the cover on it looked a bit like a Mills and Boon type book, but I assume it's a crime type book. So that's my one for Cyprus. Czechia, I've got one called Keeping Bedlam at Bay in the Prague Cafe. Another one from Everand. Denmark, I haven't got anything on here, but I will have a look through the books in a minute and see what I can find. Estonia is one that I do need to get a book for, because when I've been doing the countdown, Estonia seems to be one of the only countries that I have never read a book for, which is frustrating, because last year, if I'd have realised that, there was a book that I read by Griff Rhys-Jones where he travelled in a boat with 2 other fellas. And I could have used that for many countries. And I know Estonia was in there, but I didn't use it for Estonia. And I think if I'd have realised that I hadn't read for Estonia before, I probably would have put that down for Estonia. But never mind. But it is my aim this year to try and find an Estonian book and to do that. Next, Finland. There's one called The Year of the Hare. Again, I think I found that on Everand, but I've just looked through one of my other books and there seems to be, I think it's a poetry book, and there is a Finnish author in there, so I might let myself read some poetry instead for that one, because I don't read much poetry, and that's quite a big book. I got it for my birthday book haul. If you haven't seen that, I'll link it below and you can go back and see what I got for there. But yeah, I think I might try that poetry book. France, for a few years I've read books by Antoine Lorraine. They're quite, when I say they're quite short, they're like 250 pages, and I've really enjoyed those books. So there's one I think called The Reader's Room that I really fancy trying, so that's one I'm going to try and get a hold of and read for France. Georgia, I haven't got a book for yet, so I'll keep my eyes peeled. Germany, there's one called A Very Special Year. I am going to put pictures of all these here and it will have the authors there for you to find. I believe I put Germany up yesterday, and I've read for Germany every year, so I've never struggled to find a book for Germany. Greece is one that I have on every year pretty much, and I am going to read it this year. This is my promise on this video, that if I don't, I will get rid. I can't get the sticker off it now. It's 304 pages. So I am determined to read that this year. In fact, I may start with this one, because it's just that I don't know what puts me off about it. I think somebody bought me a copy of this book when I was younger as a child, and I never reached for it, or I started reading it and couldn't get into the writing, and then I think that's what's put me off. And now as an adult, when I bought it for myself for one of the Eurovisionathons, it's intimidated me in a weird way, because I think I'm remembering that old copy. So that might be my first read for Greece. I haven't listened to any of the songs for Eurovisionathon, so I have no idea for Eurovision, so I have no idea what I think could do well or what could win. Sometimes in past readathons I've gone off the bookies' favourites and done that. You know, the betting websites where they're saying who might do better. And sometimes it's nice just to do potluck, especially if there's books here that I want to get off my shelves. Iceland, I've got Butterflies in November by Order Ava. Oh God, this is terrible. Order Ava Olasvadottir. Apologies for absolutely murdering that name. I read a past one. Oh, I can't remember what it was called for Iceland. I think this one, yeah, is Iceland as well. I really enjoyed it by this author. So when I saw this, I think I won a voucher from the India Chords Readathon. When I did the India Chords Readathon, I won it one year, and I was kindly sent a voucher for winning that. And so this was one of the self-published, indie published books that I chose. And so, yeah, I would really like to get to that one. Let's see, Ireland is a book by Liz Hurley. I'm sure it's not the Liz Hurley. From Ireland with Love. I think I had this last year but never got round to it. I don't think Ireland got through last year, did they? So once they'd got kicked out of the semi-final, I thought there's no point reading for Ireland. So yeah, hoping to read that one this year. Let's see. So that was Ireland. Next, Israel. I have had questions this year about whether the readathon is still going on because of what's going on in Israel. I had similar last year with the horrible things that were going on in Ukraine. What I will say is Eurovision goes on every year, and some countries end up in it and some countries end up out of it for varying reasons. So what I would say with Israel is that if you don't want to watch the Eurovision this year, that is fine. If you don't want to take part in the readathon this year, obviously that is up to you. If you don't want to read for Israel this year, that is fine as well. What I am saying is, because I have messages asking me my opinions on it and what I am going to do and what other people are going to do what you're comfortable with. You know, I won't think any more or less of you if you watch the readathon or not, if you don't take part in the readathon or not. Did I just say that? Sorry if I'm repeating myself. Or if you read for Israel or not. Do what you're comfortable with. The readathon is here. The song contest is here if you want it. So yeah, do what you're comfortable with around Israel. But it is one of the countries in Eurovisionathon. I have read for this country before. I have a book that has been on my shelves for a while that I may get round to, and it's called In My Mother's Footsteps, A Palestinian Refugee Returns Home. And that is by Mona Hajar Halabi. And so if I decide to read for Israel, this may be the book that I read. There was one where Dom Jolly took some friends and travelled around where he used to live, and they may pass by Israel or a little bit into Israel. Or is he from Israel originally? Anyway, in the past I've considered that one, but I've never been quite sure if it touches on Israel, and so I've left it. So if I do, that will be what I read for Israel. Please do what you feel comfortable around that country. Italy, I will probably try this one, which I got in Asda in the sale for £2.25 not long ago when I was doing my shopping. The City of Tears by Kate Moss. I love the colour of the cover. I believe you can use this for France or... Oh, I've put Italy, but I now don't know if you can read it for Italy. Oh yeah, Italy and Amsterdam as well. So I may read it for any of those, depending on how I feel at the time. I didn't realise it was multiple, so maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it here, because I have others that I was going to mention at the end. But yeah, Italy, I believe you can use that one. Latvia, I'm going to read The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan. I believe the lady in that may have a relationship with somebody who is Latvian. So there is a link, and so I will be probably using that one. Lithuania, I haven't got anything listed yet. Or Luxembourg. Luxembourg is taking part for the first time this year, or for the first time in a while. So I would like to find a book for Luxembourg. And I look forward to when I do the countdown and put Luxembourg up on Twitter and Discord and Instagram, that people may suggest some books for Luxembourg that I have not heard from. Malta is another one that I have purchased from eBay, and it's called A Dead Man in Malta. I think it's either a crime or a mystery, so I'm looking forward to that one. Moldova, I found one on Everand called The Good Life Elsewhere. I haven't got anything for Netherlands, but as I've said, the City of Tears would probably cover that. Norway, I've ordered one off eBay called A Time for Trolls, and I feel like that's like young people's fairy stories or some kind of myth or folklore. I will know when it gets here from eBay, but that is the one that I'm going to use for Norway. Poland, I haven't put anything yet, or Portugal or San Marino, But I remember San Marino one year on Everand, which I couldn't find this time. I found a book called Around the World in 80 Men. So if I find that one again and I've not got anything for San Marino, who knows, I might read that. On here, I've got one for Serbia called With Their Backs to the World. I believe that's coming from eBay for me. But I know I've got a book on my shelves from Serbia as well, which I didn't realise till today. So either or. Slovenia, I haven't put anything yet. Or Spain. But Spain, I do tend to find ones quite easily for. Sweden, I have got... My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologies by Frederick Batman. This is the one that I got 106 pages through. This is an old library copy that was withdrawn that I managed to get a hold of. You can tell the lovely yellowing pages. I will be starting this one again and reading from the beginning if I decide to pick this one for Sweden. I don't know why I stopped, whether it wasn't grabbing me or whether I was in a reading slump at the time, but I will attempt it again most probably. Switzerland, I have one coming from eBay for me called Slow Train to Switzerland. So that sounds quite easy going. My hair again. I don't know what's going on with this. And then Ukraine, I have decided to read 2 caravans. I read A Short History of Tractors in Ukrainian and really enjoyed that book. It's so off-putting. The cover, it looks really boring. It sounded really boring and I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to try 2 caravans by the same author. The UK, I never select a book for normally because I've got that many UK books on my shelves. So I just pick what I feel like at the time. However, Andy has a friend through doing the Manchester United female fanzine. And sorry, I just can't speak words today. He obviously created the first fanzine in women's football and his team is Man United. So that is what he does. Not as a living, as a hobby, but he loves it. Excuse me, my dad is trying to ring me. I will ring him back in a moment. So through the Barmy Army, which is the women's supporters club, there is quite a group of them there, quite a community, not unlike Eurovisionathon and this community. And one of the blokes there wrote a book called United with Dad. The gentleman is Simon Lloyd. Andy really wanted to read this book because he has memories of football with his dad, watching Man United, the male team, when he was younger, right up until being a grown-up, really. And so there's that, and obviously he tries to take Sophie now to as many of the women's matches as he can, and I think he gets great joy out of that. Sorry, now my sister's ringing me. We have a WhatsApp video call, the 3 of us, and we ring each other regularly. And I rang them this morning and spoke to my sister, and now we're trying to catch my dad as well, so I'll ring them back. So I really am not into football. However, I like the idea of reading about that relationship and the link to football because Andy has it with his dad and now he has it with Sophie. So for the UK, I am probably going to read this one. And because Andy isn't much of a reader and he has read this one, it would be nice to read it and chat about it together. So, and it's always nice to support somebody. I'm assuming this is indie published. But to support somebody who Andy knows and probably hasn't been published by a massive publishing house. So yeah, United with Dad is going to probably be my UK read. I do like to read for the UK because I'm from the UK and I hope they do well in Eurovision. So let me quickly go through the other books that I've got to one side here that are possibilities. The Restoration of Otto Lurd by Nigel Packer. I was having a look through today and at the beginning of this book it mentions, let me find, admiring the view of the Franco-Swiss borderlands. So France and Switzerland are possible, I believe, with this book. Explore it further if you wish, but that may be one that I can pick up for either of those countries. A Time for Peace, a novel by Marg Roberts. This one is set in Serbia during the First World War, so that's an option for there. Major, Minor, a memoir by Albert Arica. And I believe this one, yeah, a memoir set in 1980s Paris. And Devotion by Hannah Kent mentions Prussia, and I've looked up, and Prussia at that time would now be considered as Germany. So I don't know if they travel in this, and it might mention other countries. I did read Hannah Kent one year, a different book for another country. I can't remember which, but by all means go back and research that. It's online somewhere for you to find. And so yeah, and I really enjoyed that book. That was another hard-hitting one, but I'm glad I read it. You can see here I've started writing my countries down. This is the poetry book I was talking about, She Will Roar by Anna Sampson. Bright, Brave Poems of Freedom by Women. At least you can read it for Finland, Sweden, Ireland, UK and Australia. It lists all the poets in the back and a history of them. And they're the countries I could find so far for that. So yeah, I will probably read that one for Finland. Give, Charity and the Art of Giving Generously or Living Generously by Magnus MacFarlane Barrow. I have got through this before. My Hocus Pocus bookmark is in it. I got to page 52. I believe you can at least use this for Ireland. I do think there are other countries mentioned, but I could be here all day looking for which ones they are. So I would suggest, if you have this book on hand, if you can get it on hand easily. I mean, it is a lovely book. It's talking about charity across the world. Definitely you can use it for the UK. Or Czech. Let's have a look. Or Czech Republic. So Czechia you could read this for. I need to remember that because I might use this for Czechia. Null Points by Tim Moore is obviously talking about Eurovisionathon over the years. I think Portugal's in this, so I might be able to use this for Portugal. Let's have a look. Yeah, Norway. It's looking over the years at the different countries that have hosted. And if nothing else, there are countries mentioned on the front. So actually, if it's mentioned here, excuse me, consider that you can use it for those countries as well. I think we should say that if you can find a book that talks about Eurovision in general, you can use that for any country that you need. There you go, I've said it. The Road of the Refugee Route, The Road Before Me Weeps on the Refugee Route Through Europe by Nick Thorpe. Just in the blurb itself, it mentions the Western Balkans from Turkey through Greece, Macedonia, Bulgaria, Serbia and Hungary, Budapest. So what I would say is there are many countries mentioned in this. So if this is something you fancy reading, have a look and see what you can use it for. Unfortunately, Turkey, Hungary, not in Eurovision. Bulgaria. I have a colleague who is now working with me who was from Bulgaria originally, and I got really excited and spoke to him quite early on as like an icebreaker to say, well, what books would you recommend from there? And then it turns out they're not in Eurovision this year, but he told me about a book called, I think it's called The Time Shelter. I think that's the name of the book, and it's won an International Booker Prize. And when I read it, it sounded really good. It's about a house or some kind of hotel or something that's set up in the past for people who have dementia, but actually people who haven't got dementia end up using it to be in a comfortable time where they feel secure. And that's kind of the gist of it. Don't take my word for it. I read it very quick online, but I do fancy trying that anyway. I did consider maybe having that as a group book and suggesting some extra points that people can get from it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of that idea. If enough people like it, we might do it, and then you don't have to read it, but it might be something like you get 50 extra points or 100 extra points if you read that book. I do like to do a group book each year. As always, in the Discord, if people want to buddy read that, we can do it together. And there will be options to put in the Discord if you want to buddy read some of the other books with people. That's fine too. It's really lovely how this community just kind of sorts itself into groups and does its thing. And we can all come together on the night of Eurovision and chat about it together. Did I watch Eurovision last year? There was a year recently, either last year or the year before, where I went to a wedding on Eurovision night and so couldn't watch it properly. I think I got back to the room late that night and saw some of the votes coming in. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sitting and watching it this year. Whether I'll have a get together or a party, I don't know, but I will try and watch it. In the fast lane, Lottie Moore. This talks about Vienna, at least, or Moscow's in there, but Russia isn't in it, are they? Definitely UK. I think Austria might be the only one that you can use this for. Trying to quickly see what other places are mentioned. A lot of UK places. Yeah, so probably Vienna is the only one you're going to be able to use it for. Austria. I was gifted this from Twitter. Around the World in 70 Days by Nellie Bly. I believe this could be used for France. She's basically travelling. She was one of the first female travellers around the world. Yeah, I definitely think she went through France in this and Italy. So it's only really tiny. It is... Oh yeah, it gives a record of where she went. London's definitely in there. Paris, Turin. Alright, okay. So not that many you can use it for, but it's short and doesn't actually have page numbers, so I'll look up, but look how thin it is. So that's an option. You know I love non-fiction travel. Then we've got Red, A Natural History of the Redhead. I'm married to a redhead. We have a redheaded little girl. And there are multiple countries mentioned in this because obviously redheads are more prominent in certain countries. So let's have a look. Oh, she says, I bet I can't find anywhere where it mentions the countries now. But they were definitely... France is in there. I've just seen Paris mentioned. Yeah, we could be here all day again. A lot of other countries, not European. Oh yeah, I could be here all day, guys. But yeah, worth having a look. And then recently, in my current job at the university library, I had a little look online to see what they had. There was quite a few books that I wanted that didn't seem to be on the shelf, which I will look into. But there's one called Soul Tourist by Bernardine Evaristo. Obviously, she's won prizes and things, and she wrote Girl, Woman, Other. But it says... I'll just read this one because this is my last one. Gosh, it's pouring down outside. I'm sorry if you can hear that on the conservatory. Meet Stanley Williams, single, in his 30s, grieving the death of his Jamaican father and wondering if there's more to life than his 9-to-5 banking job in a sky-high glass menagerie. Enter Jessie O'Donnell, barmaid, former singer cum comedian, and desperate to get into a rusty old larder Neva and hit the freeway across Europe. The unlikely pair begin a electrifying odyssey that weaves in and out of history, colliding with the forgotten heroes of Europe's past. Shakespeare's mysterious Dark Lady of the Sonnet, Pushkin and his Ethiopian great-grandfather, and the mixed-race Alessandro de Medici of Florence are all ready to have their voices heard, and Stanley and Jessie do what they can to hang on for the ride. So, again, another one you'd have to explore through and see which countries they pass. I'm just looking if there are any chapter titles that I can kind of look at. France is definitely in there. Italy. Oh, Turkey's mentioned. But some chapters don't mention a country but could travel through there. So let's have a look what 209 says because there's something there. So that's Turkey, that one. Alright, okay, so, you know, it's worth having a look and seeing what you can find, because like I said, the chapters don't always say which countries, but there's a few countries there you can use it for. So that is everything. So the main thing to remember is that it runs from The 11th, oh not the 11th, the 13th of April is the start of the readathon. The end of the readathon is the 11th of May. I cut it off at the start of the Eurovision Song Contest UK time. So it's normally about 7:30 at night. I cut it off. So please stop reading at that point. If you put a book in after that point, unfortunately, it won't be counted. Look out for that last week where the semi-finals are, so that you can kind of decide which last minute books to fit in. Join the Discord, message me, I will add you to it. Look for Eurovisionathon on Twitter, Instagram, Storygraph. We have a Storygraph, so I've put all 37 countries on there. People are already joining on that and putting, I think the last time I looked there was about 170 book ideas on there. I will try and put all of these ones on there too. I think that's everything. Go back on YouTube and look at my Eurovisionathon playlist, because every year I put my TBR video and my announcement videos, and then I put everybody else who's done an announcement, a TBR video on those threads, so you can go back and get ideas. You can go back and see more about what the readathon's about. I do try and vlog it, but quite often I do one vlog and that is it, because I just get carried away with reading and life takes over. I am finishing my current job role, because it was temporary, looking like the 30th of April. So the first half of the readathon I will be working 1 till 9 each day. And so I will be trying to read in the mornings and on my break. After the 30th of April, I will be spending 2 lovely weeks just reading to my heart's content. Yeah, so who knows what the future holds. My current workplace did ask me to extend my job contract. However, my little girl is missing mummy at bedtime, so the hours don't quite fit. We will see what happens, if any other hours become available, or they can do some kind of alternative that I can apply for. But if not, this job was fantastic. It gave me all of my confidence back, and yeah, it's given me back my joy of reading, because I was in a slump before when I was feeling very stressed. So everything is good. Looking forward to the readathon. Message below about what you're excited about, which books you're going to choose, anything to do with Eurovision or Eurovisionathon. Use the hashtag Eurovisionathon on all the social media channels, and I will find you that way, and I will retweet what you post. And let's just have fun and enjoy together. If I have forgotten anything, just put in the comments below and I will reply to messages. All I will say is, on the sign up form, pick your username and then note it somewhere, and then when you log your books, please keep that username the same, because it is difficult to start trying to scroll through and find what books people have read. I do get a lot of questions every time asking me, can you tell me if I've logged this book? I've read more books than it says I've read, because each week I try and put a bit of a leaderboard about where people are up to, and then like a bit of a scoreboard, and then people say they've read more books and it's because their username has changed, or they've put a space in or a full stop where it shouldn't be, and it's either me doing it or my lovely husband who just does this for the good of doing it for me, and I have to start asking him to look as well. So if you can keep your username the same, that would be really helpful. But otherwise, any other questions, just let me know, and have fun, and I will speak soon. Bye.